Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Vino Frankel, a Taste of Sculpterra. I am your host, Paul Frankel, and I'm really happy, thrilled, excited to have my sister with me today, Faith Frankel.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's the first time that Faith's been on this podcast, and since she's here, I'm here. We're going to talk about our family, how we grew up, where our parents came from. Faith, I'm going to get real into this, how she's very passionate about food and wine pairings and how she got into that and how she learned to cook, her experiences with different foods from the world. So we'll get into that. First, though, I want to just thank everybody who came to the Harvest Fiesta, which just happened on Saturday. It was a great party. It was our biggest turnout ever for this party. This is a celebration of the harvest. We're almost done with the harvest. So
it was pretty insane.
Yeah.
It was much more of a party than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, the ambassador from Oxnard, who does immigration and travels between Mexico and America, he gave a speech and he said, "Where there's Mexicans, there's a party." That was one of his lines.
It was a party. It was, the DJ was popping. It was fun.
Well, what was really nice is we did a live food and wine pairing during the event. We brought up La Parrilla, Chocos Tacos. They made quesadilla and rib tacos, and we paired it with Cabernet and Primitivo, and we did this live food and wine pairing in front of the audience so they could do the same thing. They can order our wine by the glass and get some Mexican food, try it. So yeah, super fun, great day. It was a lot of work, totally worth it. Enjoyed it every minute of it. So thank you guys for coming. And if you later in this episode, I'll talk about events that are on the calendar, what we have coming up. So be on the lookout for that. But first, I want to just kind of recap where we are with harvest. You see, I've still got my harvest shirt. So we're now entering. It's been almost 2 months of harvest. We started August 29th. Today is October 21st. And we're not done picking. We have Cabernet left to pick. We did get a lot of rain last Monday, but luckily we got everything we needed to pick before that rain. Now what's left is Cabernet. We've got 4 vineyards left of Cab. We have Cab on the hillside and the valley. We're going to focus on Cabernet today. In fact, I brought 2 Cabs we're going to taste. We're going to taste our new 2023 Sculpterra Cab and a Cabernet blend. So, and I'm going to go into depth about Cabernet. So Cab's all we have left to harvest. I was thinking about picking it this week because there was rain in the forecast again. It's supposed to rain on Saturday. Earlier models were predicting 1 inch to 2 inches, but now the rain is gone. I don't know how that works, but there was rain forecasted, now it's gone.
It's called living on the Central Coast. They can't predict the weather. When you live in Chicago, they can predict it to the minute. But not here with all of our hills. So,
but that's good news because our Cabernet is getting sweeter, riper, more mature. I checked BRIX yesterday, where we go through the vineyard with a bucket and we cut grapes off the vines, crush them in a bucket, and analyze it, taste the juice, see how sweet it is, check the pH and TA if we want to go to that length and see. So right now, our Hilltop Cab is the closest to being ready to pick. That's 25 BRIX. And then we got the Cab behind the tasting room was only 22.5. The Bentley Ironworks Cab was 24 BRIX. And yeah, so we're almost there. If we had to pick now, we could, and it would make nice wine. It would work out well. But if we could just squeeze out a couple more BRIX, get the grapes a little sweeter. Because remember, every BRIC you get, every percentage point is over 0.5% of alcohol. So this is a difference between 13% to 13.5% alcohol, or 14 to 14.5. And 0.5% of alcohol makes a difference on your palate, how it lingers, how it finishes. So again, if we can get the grapes a little sweeter. Now the problem is it's getting colder. Yesterday was 83, Sunday was mid 80s. So it has been hot the last few days, but now it's getting only in the upper 60s, upper 70s at the most. So not so sure how much riper the grapes are going to get at this point. But I always tell everybody, we're always the first vineyard to pick and the last vineyard to pick, because we start early and then we hold out to try to get the grapes as ripe as we can and bring them in at the right time. So when I come on the show next week, we'll see. Maybe at that point we've harvested or scheduled to harvest. So I'm going to check the BRIX now every Monday until we're picking. Pistachios. We picked pistachios yesterday and today. And it's one of the biggest harvests we ever had. We had 5 truckloads of pistachios, where last year we had frost and we only had 1 truckload.
So what is a truckload?
Yeah, truckload is anywhere from 20 to 24 tons. Legally, the trucks are not supposed to have more than 24 tons. So there's probably 20 to 22 tons. So that's 120 tons of pistachios that we got in 27 acres of producing trees. And they taste great. I was thrilled that the rain we got. I mean, our next door neighbor, he told me on his property they got 2¼ inches on Monday, Tuesday storm. I thought we only got 1.5 inches, but on our property, it looks like we got over 2 inches. So I thought the pistachios were going to get wrecked, ruined, rot, mold, whatever. I didn't think the trees can hold up in that much rain, but looking at the nuts as they were being picked yesterday and today, they look great. They taste great. I ate a lot. I've been enjoying it. Eating raw pistachios is a great treat. If you ever come to the tasting room and if you schedule a tour with me, we go out to the pistachio trees. And if it's harvest time, you could try pistachios. So we had 5 truckloads. And what's cool is that we get a report back from each truckload on how many splits and non-splits, how many were ripe and not ripe. And it breaks down everything about it. So
when you say splits, you mean like splits of the shell?
Right, yeah.
Because if they're not split, then they can't be processed.
Yeah, they go into a different batch. You have the husk, the shell, and the kernel are the 3
So splits
parts.
are good.
Yes, splits are very good. And it looked like we had a larger percentage of splits. Usually we only get 20% of all the pistachios are split, maybe 30%. So this year it looks like it's over 30%. So
that's fantastic.
Yes, and the rain did not affect it, which I didn't know what would happen. We've never had that much rain in October on either the grapes or the pistachios. So pleased about the pistachios. All right, well, I'm going to pass it over to Faith because I want to ask her some questions. I want you guys to get to know her, get to know us, get to know our family. So my sister is a doctor. Faith right here, she's a family doctor. She went to UCSB and then Tel Aviv, Israel for medical school, and then USC for residency. So she's done a lot of traveling. And in between that, she's did school in Sweden. She's done stints in Italy and a lot of medical missionary trips. So I wanted, Faith, if you could you just explain our family background and where our parents came from, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Our father is from Manhattan, from New York, born and raised in, Manhattan, downtown New York. He was there most of his life. He went to college there. He went to medical school there. He ended up in California for residency at UCLA, and did the Army there. He was in the Vietnam War. He didn't have to go to Vietnam, but he was a doctor there at UCLA for the soldiers. That's where he met my mother. So my mother is California raised. She was born in Encino in the Valley in LA. She's an LA girl. The reason why our history is important with this topic is because, our parents, they have different nationalities where they're both Americans, but they're both of their families are immigrants. They came over to this country. Our father, his family is from Eastern Europe. They're Jewish, and they're from, he thinks mostly like the Ukraine area, Russia, Ukraine border. That's where our family's from on his side. He was, raised in Orthodox Jewish food. We're talking mostly about food today. So his family is mostly Jewish, Eastern European food. Our mother is 100% Greek. So her family came over from Athens. Her grandmother, our great-grandmother Sophia, they actually immigrated to Canada and then came down to California. So we have the Greek and the Jewish nationalities in our family that are very different and very similar, both Mediterranean. So a lot of similar ingredients with the Israeli and the Greek ingredients, but different because it's more, our father is more Eastern European. So it's Eastern European and the Greek, and they actually are what they say is they're the only people in our family that actually married outside of their religion, race. So 100% Jewish, 100% Greek, and it's very interesting, and the way that the food kind of it's different and similar, and the way it relates to wine is very interesting. So it's always been something I've been very interested in, and we've been very, very lucky as a family to be able to experience both sides and to be so close to all of our family members. So, and it's always been something that's very interesting to me. So, and I had the privilege, we've grown up, we've both been to Greece. I lived in Israel for 4 years. So, it's something that's very important to me. So we got the Greek and we got the Jewish, Eastern European, and the Mediterranean.
Yep, exactly. Now, Faith, as I remember when we were young growing up, that you always liked to cook. You always liked to mix drinks, whether we're drinking soda or lemonade, and you always wanted to experiment eating and drinking different things. When did you first learn to cook? What was your first experience cooking?
So I've always been interested in cooking. It's funny because our mother is a fantastic cook. Our mother, Kathy, she's Greek, but she actually didn't really cook Greek food when we were growing up. She was brought up in, the 50s, and all of her cooking is a lot of like the 50s and 60s, chicken a la king, casseroles. She loves making, turkey dinner, stuff like that. So she did a lot of that stuff, and a lot of, all Americana stuff, like hot dogs, hamburgers. She was forced to cook in her family at a very young age. She actually made Thanksgiving dinner when she was 9 years old, the whole thing by herself. She had to do it every single year. So she actually doesn't really like cooking because she was forced to do it. As kids, we don't like doing things that we're forced to do. So she was never really enthusiastic with teaching me. She would let me into the kitchen and she would let me stir. So basically my first memories cooking is over the stove stirring, and she would just come up and just dump a million things into a pot. And that's, I would just stir. She wouldn't explain anything to me. I would ask her, what are you doing? What are you putting in? Oh, I don't know. I'm just doing something. And it would come out fantastic every time. So that's kind of my first experience. I remember, as I got older, I would, complain to our father, I really want to learn how to cook. Mom, our mother was just very busy. She had 3 kids. We had tons of animals on the property. We grew up on a ranch. She was very busy. And our father, if you came up with an idea in our family, he would do anything he could to reinforce it. So I said, I really want to learn how to cook. So he was like, all right, I'm going to get you a job and you're going to learn how to cook. So he actually got me a job at Templeton Market, which is the neighboring town here in Paso, Robles, Templeton. It was a deli, a grocery store. You could buy all your groceries there. They made all different types. It wasn't just, sandwiches and salads. It was sandwiches, salads, fried chicken, a full bakery, cookies, cakes. And so he got me a job there when I was 13, 14 years old. And that's where I worked after school. And I worked actually under the head cook, and that's when I really learned the basics of cooking, like how to chop a tomato, how to make fried chicken, how to boil an egg, all of those things. I mean, I just learned how to do everything. And so that's when it kind of cemented for me how to cook. And actually, my mom actually helped me a lot. Because when I ran out of ideas at the deli, she would give me, recipes, and then she became more engaged. But she's an amazing cook. So just watching her, and also I had the privilege of living with our grandparents, our Yaya and Papu, my mom's parents, my Greek grandparents. I lived with them for a couple of months, and I was able to do all of our great grandmother's recipes and to cook with our grandparents, and that was amazing too. So, but mainly just watching our mother, and also that job at Templeton Market. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and early on, before I was married, before you were married,
yes,
you would cook a lot for me.
Oh,
and
yes.
you would experiment and
Yes.
try different foods.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing with cooking for people is, especially when you're starting out, is you got to trust them that they'll tell you when you screw up. So I think you and my dad and now my husband, you guys definitely tell me if I don't do something well. So, but it's good. You gotta just keep cooking, just like with winemaking, is an art. So I think you're constantly learning years and years and years, and just you keep perfecting it and what tastes good and what doesn't. And just like with your craft, it's just constantly evolving.
Yeah, and I remember years ago at Sculpterra, back in the early days, we did these for wine variety nights or wine varietal nights where our staff would go around and collect different wines from other tasting rooms. We'd have a theme. We're doing Zinfandel or Syrah. So they would go around and collect all the Syrahs they could find, and we would taste them blindly as a way to educate ourselves on what Paso Syrah tastes like and the differences between maybe East Side or West Side, or just trying other tasting rooms' wines. Right. And it started out as a staff event, just for the few of us that worked there.
It was also because we were just starting out as a winery, and we kind of it was called an industry event, where we would tell other wineries about us so that we could all promote each other. What's great about Paso Robles wineries is people always ask, like, well, do you recommend other wineries? We're always recommending other wineries in the area. We're very supportive of each other. And it was an event where all the wineries could actually bring a bottle of wine to our event, and we put them in brown bags, and then we line them up on the bar in Sculpterra, and we would taste them all and rank them. And it was a fantastic night. And then I would prepare food based on which varietal we were pouring. Funny, just kind of a side note. So we would all taste all the brown bagged wines. You don't know which wine is in each bag. You don't know which winery. It would all be the same varietal. Let's say it was like all Cabernets. But Paul could always tell us which wine was ours, just by tasting all 30 wines in the brown bags. You wouldn't even know what wine, you wouldn't even know. And he would whisper in my ear, okay, Sculpterra is number 5. I'd be like, how do you know? You cannot know that. There's 30 wines. And he'd be like, no, I know my wine. It's like you know your children. Like, you would always know the wine. It was so impressive, and it was always right. And it was amazing. It really floored me. Like, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm very competitive. I wanted to win. So if we're doing this competition, I want to win. I want us to win. And yeah, I'm
sometimes
around
we
the
won,
wines.
sometimes we lost. But
when you're around the wines constantly, you can pick up certain smells.
that's
certain
pretty
tastes.
amazing. I thought it was amazing.
But these events got a little out of hand because it was a free event.
It was free, yes.
For anybody. So we started getting the word out, industry, fun varietal wine night, and other tasting room members for other wineries would come, and they would bring their friends, and then it became, more and more people would come.
Yeah,
and
it
then,
would be like 300 people.
Yeah, and Faith was responsible for all the food, and people wanted the food. It was like, there's
it was
food,
a lot of fun.
Free event, free wine,
Right.
free food, and it's an educational event.
And that's kind of funny that you were talking about our fiesta, our harvest fiesta, because you were doing like a wine. You were saying you did like a wine pairing thing with the Mexican food, and one of the varietals we used to do was a Zinfandel varietal for our. And I remember our tasting room manager at the time. He doesn't work for us anymore, but a nice guy. I would do a Mexican themed food for the Zinfandel or for our Primitivo, and he would always say, Faith, you cannot pair Mexican food with wine. It's not a pairing. You cannot do it. It just doesn't go well. You cannot pair. And I was just like, what? Really? I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing so much, but it was funny because now people would never say that. I mean, you could pair anything with wine. And I just remember him like chastising me and saying, no, you don't even know what you're doing. You cannot do Mexican food with wine. But it made sense to me. And I think in this day, and that was, 10-15 years ago. So I think nowadays you can really pair anything with wine. So even Mexican food is a lot more complicated than people think. We talk about the mother sauces in France. The sauces in Mexican cuisine are so many ingredients and so many nuances, and you can definitely pair wine with Mexican food. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
Probably my top food and wine pairing ever, or one of my top, is chips and guacamole, fresh guacamole, chips guacamole with rosé, with our Paso Pink rosé. We had that at one of our events, and it was so simple.
That's really interesting.
And just so good. So good.
Okay, because fruitiness of rosé, goes with kind of the fruitiness of avocado and the tomato. I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Faith's she's cooked tons of dishes. She's tried out everything. She's experimented, but I wanted you to tell our audience what would you say your cooking style is, or where do you lean more towards?
Yeah, so that's kind of a hard question. I mean, I think kind of like I was saying before, cooking kind of evolves. It's kind of an art. Just like with winemaking, you get a different style as you get more used to it and the older you get. When I was first cooking, I would try to cook as many different things as I could, as many ingredients, just really classic things, reading a lot of recipes. I mean, we used to do Sunday night dinners with our families, and it would take me all day on Sunday to cook the entire meal. Sometimes I would have to prep on Saturday. It would take me so long, so many ingredients. And then the thing that really solidified my cooking style was when I went to Italy. I really wanted to cook in Italy. Our father, who grew up, like I was saying, in Manhattan, you would think that his passion would be, Ashkenazi Jewish food. He really didn't like that kind of a food. His main food that he really loved was Italian food. He grew up with Italians. And so, in downtown Manhattan, all of his friends were Italian. He went to their houses, and their mothers would be cooking sauces, for hours and hours and hours. And so he always talked to me about Italian food. And so I really wanted to learn how to make Italian food. Our neighbors when we were growing up, Romolo and Angelo DiPaolo, who are still our parents' neighbors, they, Romolo is Italian, and my dad asked him, my daughter really wants to cook. Is there any way that you could take her to Italy and maybe, have her do an apprentice at a restaurant? So he got me a job there. Our dad is always getting us jobs. And so I did a stage, is what it's called, when you work in a restaurant where you don't get paid, but you're there to learn. I went to Italy, in a small little town outside Rome, and I learned how they cook in Italy, and there were no recipes. No one spoke English, even though most of the places around the world people speak English. Where we were, no one spoke English. If I spoke Spanish, they kind of understood me a little bit. But the menus in this restaurant were all based on what we found in the markets that day. We went to the vegetable market, we went to the meat market, we went to the sea to get the fish. Whatever we found, that's what we cooked. And everything was very low ingredients and very high quality. And it just changed me. I mean, I heard a lot over my life of chefs who say they go to India, they go to all these, they go to Thailand, they learn how to cook, and it changes them. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I don't consider myself a chef at all. But when I went to Italy, I could understand. I mean, and when I came back, that's when I solidified how I want to cook for the rest of my life. And that's how I've always cooked since then, is low ingredients. It's more of a feeling than a recipe, and it's about good quality ingredients, cooking seasonally, getting what's available. And I would say that's my style, is more the Italian way, not so much the French way of, technique. In Italy, they have technique, of course, but it's ingredient driven, it's quality ingredients, and not so much of how many ingredients. So low ingredients and quality, cooking seasonally, and just enjoying the process. So, wherever I've gone around the world, it's all about about the markets. When I lived in Israel and Italy, going to those markets and seeing what's available and what's, that's, I would say, my style now. But it's always changing, just like with you in winemaking. I think that, my style is more the Italian way of ingredient driven, but low ingredients, high quality. So.
Yeah, I always feel that your food is comfort food, leans more on the side of comfort food, or not so exotic. I mean, I don't have the most exotic taste buds, and the rest of us in our family, they're also not so.
Well, you got to cook for your audience too. So when we cook for our family, you're actually of all of our family members, you probably have the more exotic palates compared to our parents and stuff like that. So I know as a young kid, you didn't eat very many different things, but now I think maybe because of the winemaking thing, I think your palate has definitely grown. But yeah, I would say comfort food, but really just low amount of ingredients, high quality. That would be what I try to strive for now.
Perfect. Fantastic. Yeah. So we both love food and wine pairings. I mean, how can you go wrong pairing great wine with great food? And I'm passionate about the wine. Faith, obviously, you've heard how passionate she is about food and her experiences doing it. This is the next section of this podcast. We always talk about the world of wine, whether it's a topic going on in the wine industry, things changing in the world at the moment relating to vineyards, grapes, wine. But I thought for this section, which Faith's already touched on, we would go more into depth on where we've traveled. Mm-hmm. Our father is also a doctor, a family doctor, and he started a medical missionary group. So as kids, we got to go to China, and Faith went to Haiti, Peru, India, Indonesia, Fiji, Romania. We went to lots of countries, Africa multiple times. So we were exposed to lots of cultures as young kids, which was a tremendous experience, and we were blessed to be a part of that. We worked in a medical clinic. I would work in the pharmacy. I would count pills, filling prescriptions. Faith, obviously, going to medical school, could do more of the doctoring with the patients. So, and we ate different foods on these trips. It was hard for me eating in places like Africa and China too. I remember being in China as a young kid, and it was mostly vegetables and green shoots and green leafy things. I wasn't a strong vegetable eater like I am now, but it exposed us to the world and a lot of food. So I wanted Faith to speak about this and how going on these medical missionary trips evolved our palates and helped us develop into the taste that we have now.
Yeah, so, going on these missionary trips, we didn't go and stay. I mean, we didn't go on vacation. So we went to go help people. And we stayed mostly with the locals, people who invited us into their countries, mostly pastors or other physicians. And so we ate the food that they made for themselves. And so it's funny, because we went to China, we didn't eat, orange chicken and egg rolls. It was mostly, like Paul was saying, vegetables, rice. So we were exposed to the real food of these countries. And if you didn't like it, then you didn't eat. I mean, you just ate. And I actually, when I was growing up, I loved everything. So I've always eaten everything. I liked it. It's funny because the hardest country to eat in, Mexico was fantastic. I remember eating ceviche, and my dad was just like, "You cannot eat raw fish." I was like, and I remember being 13, being like, "Dad, it's not raw; it's cooked in lemon juice." But he didn't. No, that's not cooked. There's no fire, But it was. We never got sick. Mexico was fine. The country that was the hardest was actually Romania. Romania, it's old, Soviet Union country. A lot of, not so many vegetables as you would think. It's mostly soups, a lot of fat, a lot of starch, very hard to eat. China actually had a lot of vegetables, and Africa, also a lot of vegetables and stuff like that. But we really were exposed to a lot of things, a lot of humble ingredients. It's not, these were not fancy places. The thing which really, helped me with my palate and everything is our father, who travel was very, very important to him. He would take us on these missionary trips, but then once we were overseas, he would be like, all right, let's go to Italy, after we went to China, or let's go to France after we went to Romania. And that's when, we really got to eat amazing food. I remember being in Italy with my father. I was probably, I think I was like 20 years old, and I'd never seen him eat so much in my life. He ate so much pasta, and and then when we went to France and we went to the markets and we ate baguettes and all the fresh produce, and we went to these restaurants. Those were and actually, after one of our Romania trips, we actually went to Israel to go visit, and that's when I decided to go there for medical school. And that was, I remember being in Israel, and the first meal that I ever had there, I had roasted mushrooms with hummus, and it sounds like such an easy thing, and it was the most amazing food I've ever had in my life. And so I mean, that's not why I chose to go there for medical school. It was part of it, though. But not just those missionary trips, but where our father took us afterwards, after those trips, was really where I got to experience food and the different cultures. So it definitely, and those missionary trips, what it really made you feel was that you had to eat what the people were eating. And it really, you know, in this country, in America, we think we know different cultures, but when you go there, it's a totally different experience. And it really opens your mind of what food can be and what you can do with it. And there's always one thing that's always common though around the world is they always have some kind of wine or some kind of alcohol yeah, it's very interesting. So that's definitely really shaped, you know, how I feel about food is definitely our trips and drinking, you know, not just eating around the world, but also drinking wine too. So.
Yep. No, it was great. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I want to take my son on some of these missionary trips now. His Healing Hands, which is the name of the group, they're still very active. Our father doesn't go on the trips anymore, but he's still the board president and does the meetings. And we do a big event at the tasting room every June. We do a fundraiser and an annual get together where we recap this year and next year and what the team's doing. Our Uncle George just went on a trip to Peru, and he's a chiropractor. He loves food. I mean, he eats street food. We're talking, you know, hot dogs on the street,
and
that kind of stuff.
More quantities than any person should be able to fit.
Yeah,
he's an amazing eater.
Yeah, he's
and he's
great
very
to go
enthusiastic about it.
Great to go on these trips.
Peru is a great country. I mean, there's like something like over 1,000 varieties of Peruvian potatoes, just potatoes. So it's pretty amazing.
So yeah, the world of wine. You know, if leave a comment if you've traveled to different parts of the world and you've experienced different foods and different wines and you've tried them, and then maybe you've come back home and you've learned how whatever tastes like, and now you're trying it back here. We have our event calendar. I want to touch on this a little bit here. We finished the Harvest Fiesta, that was last weekend. Our next event is our open house wine club parties on November 8th and 9th. And we're going to taste, at the end of today's show, we're going to taste our Maquette blend, which is one of the new wines being picked up in the Collectors Club. They're getting a bottle of Cabernet, Maquette, and Statuesque. Mm-hmm. And those wines are being paired with food. So it's going to be, it's a free event for our wine club members. If guests want to come, there's a $25 ticket fee per guest or for non-members. But I wanted to briefly have Faith and I talk about the menu that our chef has prepared. So this is throughout the years for our events, we bring in different caterers, but we've used his name is Ryan Swathart. And Ryan's done incredible food and wine pairings. He does our blending party and this open house party and winemaker dinners, our progressive wine pairings where we move around our sculpture garden with different food and wine at the same time. Faith, you want to go over the menu that Ryan's had and
yeah, sure,
what
of course.
It's going to work?
Yeah, it's a really nice event. Like Paul was saying, it's kind of like a heavy appetizers kind of buffet menu. You can drink as much as you want. You can eat. Ryan, he works really closely with us. That's really nice because he's just kind of a small operation. He asks us which wines we're going to pour, and then he kind of comes up with the menu along with Paul and myself. And he tries to hit every nuance. So we have a list of what he's going to be preparing. So you just want me to read it off of what?
Yeah, let's go through the 5 courses. He's got 5 courses.
Yeah, so he's got 5 different things. He's usually going to do a buffet style, correct? So that's usually what he's going to do. So he's got, number 1 is a chicken and linguiça and white bean cassoulet. So that's basically a cassoulet. It's a French peasant dish usually with beans and with meat. Usually it can be duck, it can be pork. He's chosen to do chicken and linguiça, which is a sausage and a chicken with the white beans. So it's classic French. And like Paul was saying, we're going to be pouring our Maquette, which is our Bordeaux blend. So I think it goes perfectly with that because, Bordeaux blends, perfect French wine with a French dish. So I think, I did some recipes for this, for the collectors club, for the club as well, and I also paired a chicken dish with red wine, which is kind of controversial, but the French do it. They do it with their coq au vin, which is a chicken and red wine dish. The Italians do it with their chicken cacciatore, which is a red wine dish with chicken. So you can do poultry with red wine, and I think this is a great example, and I think he's doing it perfectly. Second thing, he's got a honey jalapeno cornbread topped with pulled pork. I mean, we're going away from the French more towards Paso Robles, cowboy country here. We're going to be having our Cabernet, which is going to be featured. Our Cabernet has got a bold oak, nice flavor, goes great with barbecue. So I think that's a great pairing. He's also got a caramelized onion puff pastry pinwheels. This is more of a vegetarian dish. He's really great because he wants to have meat, vegetarian. He kind of hits everyone's palate. Caramelized onions are gonna be, it's onions, but it's sweet, and so it's gonna go really well with the heavy reds. The red wine is gonna really cut through the sweetness of that. He's got, the next course is a roasted pumpkin salad with pomegranate seeds, feta cheese, and balsamic dressing. You've got a lot of acid in this course. You've got the feta cheese, the balsamic dressing, a lot of acid, a lot of salt. When I talk about food pairings, there's 3 ways of doing it. You can do something that's like and like, or opposites. Like and like is something that's, if it's fruity wine, you pair it with something fruity. If it's something heavy, you pair it with something heavy. Think of red wine with a red meat, wine and steak. Or you can do opposites. Opposites kind of cut through things. You can do a acidic food and maybe like a buttery Chardonnay, and the butteriness of the Chardonnay will cut through the acidity of the food, or vice versa. You can do kind of an acidic Sauvignon Blanc with a buttery shrimp dish, something that will cut through it. So you can do like and like, or opposites. Or you can actually, what I do with my wine pairings that we send through is you can make actually the food with the wine. If you put the wine in it, it's going to go with it. So that's always the thing that I like to do. So this salad, it's got a lot of feta cheese has salt, balsamic dressing has sweetness and acidity. That's going to go really great with the red wines, and the pomegranate seeds, fruit, like I was saying, like and like, the pomegranate really brings out the red fruit in the wine. And the 5th course, he's got classic pistachio cheesecake brownies. We always want to kind of pull in our pistachios with the menu as well, and he's always great about that. And so brownies, chocolate, red wine, can't go wrong with that. And then bringing it home with the pistachios, which is the other thing that we grow, which is very important. So I think this is a very thoughtful menu, and I think he's really thought about it. This is not just something that we planned for this months and months in advance, and he sends us the menu months in advance and we go through it. So he's really thought about this. So it's really a nice event, and it's free, like Paul was saying, for our club members. So it's really worth it to become a club member at Sculpterra.
Yeah, and you're going to taste, obviously we're featuring and promoting Cabernets, but we have all the white wines available: Viognier, Sauv Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Muscat, which is a touch sweet. And then the reds, we've got Primitivo, Pinot Noir, Grenache, Syrah. So those will be available for tasting. We suggest pairing these courses with our cabs and certain wines. But when you're at the party, you can certainly taste these foods with all of the wines and make up your own mind on what you think pairs the best.
Right, and I'll be there. My husband Truman will be there. Our club manager Christian Nelson will be there, and Darren, who was on your podcast a couple of times ago, he will be there too. He's probably and so we have a lot of knowledgeable people to talk about the food and the wine, and to really educate and share with people what we suggest to go with which wines. So it's a lot of fun. And everyone has a different idea. You know, people taste the food and say, "Oh, this went with this. It didn't go with this." It's kind of fun. You know, everyone's palate's different, and it's a good time to really talk to people and to get people's perspective and what we can do in the future and how we can change things. And people come up with things that you never even thought of. So it's fun. We have a good time.
Yeah, so that's happening November 8th and 9th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. We do these parties in the afternoon from 12 p.m. to 3:30. There's music playing. There's also food trucks, too. So if this is not enough food for you, if you're still at the party and you had everything and you're still hungry, you can certainly purchase lunch from one of our food trucks that'll be on site. Okay, my next section on this podcast is I always do TMI, too much information. But today, since I think we've really shared a lot about our personal life and our experiences growing up. So I think we've covered a lot of this. But as Faith mentioned, she does food and wine pairings. She'll do a blog post where she goes through the recipes of foods that she's come up with, and then what she recommends to be paired with wine. So Faith, just real briefly, do you want to talk about some of the ones that you've been working on recently for the...
Yeah, so like Paul was saying, the next shipment is going to be Maquette, which is our Bordeaux blend. That I've paired with a saltimbocca, which is a prosciutto wrapped chicken dish over mashed sweet potatoes. I was trying to think of a Thanksgiving kind of a recipe that people could do. It's kind of a Thanksgiving meal all in one dish. So that'll be part of the blog. I did a Cabernet. We did a barbecue beef bite, kind of like how Ryan Swathart's doing for our tasting in November. I think barbecue and Cabernet is a very, very good good mix. And then I also did desserts. People love desserts. And I think it's kind of fun to experiment wine with dessert that's not dessert wine. So with the statuesque, which is our heaviest blend, I actually did a chocolate cake and I put the statuesque in the chocolate cake. So that's a lot of fun. And then I did a coffee cake with the actually I think it was the petite syrah that I did the chocolate cake, and the statuesque I did with the cinnamon cake. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, so we did that. And our heavy reds can really go well with the dessert wines, so you don't really have to do dessert wine to enjoy dessert. It's kind of the nice acidity in the wine brings out the sweetness. You know, when people say to add a little bit of salt in with a dessert, this is not a step to skip. This is something that brings out the natural sugars in the dessert. And I think the wine kind of brings out the sweetness in the desserts. So, and people always love a dessert. So there's lots of recipes. Those are only a couple of them. I did actually 6 recipes that'll go out on the blog. My husband's working on that, Truman. He's going to be the one putting those out. And it's a lot of fun. And it's fun to work on these recipes because I invite our friends over. I was telling you, our friend Christian, who's our club manager, him and his wife came over. We kind of made like a party out of it. We tasted the wines. We came up with the recipes. They critique me. You always have to have people that are willing to tell you what works and what doesn't work. And it was a lot of fun. So this is really enjoyable. And I hope people really can follow along and make these recipes and use the wine with it. It's wine's not just about for drinking, it's also for pairing with food. So it's a whole experience.
Yep, and you can access Faith's blog on our website. It's going to be updated with these recipes that she's come up with, food and wine
6
pairing
new recipes. So
we'll have it linked on our Facebook. So please check that out. We'll include it in one of our first of the month e-news emails as well. So we talked a lot about food. We love food, but what about animals? It's time for Animals in the Vineyard. Faith, can you do an animal sound?
No.
Some kind of animal sound. Well, our parents love dogs. So we grew up with a lot of dogs. I mean, we probably lost count how many dogs that we've had.
I think my mom said she's had 36 dogs.
And we've had a variety of dogs, from labs to sheep herding dogs to big dogs, little dogs. We've had it all, but dogs are important, especially being on a property, being on a ranch. We have a lot of predators. We have coyotes and bobcats and mountain lions even on our property. So it's good to have a guard dog to keep those animals away. We have a bobcat that I see that eats from our fruit trees. That'll eat all the persimmons and plums and nectarines. So you need a dog to get the bobcat out of there. But Faith, you're a dog person and
Yes.
you like dogs. We grew up with dogs. You've always liked it. You've always enjoyed it. And yeah, just share a little bit about our experiences with dogs.
Like with our current animals that we have. So right now our parents, they actually were dog breeders. So they bred Newfoundlands for a long time. And then now they're really into German Shorthair Pointers. They're kind of the perfect dog for the ranch. They're hunting dogs, but they're more, people use them for hunting. They're very, very energetic. They're constantly moving. You have to walk them multiple times a day, and they have to run for multiple miles a day. My dad always says that his German Shorthair Pointer keeps him young. Right now they have Rosie, who's our German Shorthair Pointer that my parents have. She is about 8 or 9 years old, but she is more energetic than my puppy. I got a new puppy recently. She's half Chihuahua, half Whippet. And her name's Tara. She's adorable. And she is pretty energetic, but not compared to the German Shorthair Pointer, who is twice her age. So we've got lots of animals on the property, but yeah, the German Shorthair Pointers are amazing. It's really funny if you go around Paso Robles and you go to different wineries. A lot of the wineries have different types of dogs. There's actually a winery here, Stillwater Winery. They're a great winery. They raise German Shorthair Pointers as well. So really cute dogs, but they require a lot of attention and a lot of energy and can really do well on the property. So yeah, and they do really well with the prey. They're good barkers, and they chase all the squirrels.
Yeah, and it's funny. Our dogs, especially the labs we've had, they'll eat the grapes off the vine. People have said that's bad for them. Don't let them do it. They'll go right up to the vines and eat a cluster off the vine. It cracks me up every time. Eating grapes. All right. Well, we talked about food. We talked about dogs. We're going to talk more about food. I wish we had some of this food to eat after hearing about all of Faith's wonderful recipes and the cooking that she does. Well, we do Nerd Out on Wine, where we get a little technical, talk about something more in depth, more in detail with regarding to wine. And since we've been talking about Cabernet, which again, this is the last grape we're going to be harvesting on the property. Cabernet is interesting because if you pick Cab too early, it can taste green. If you wait till it's fully ripe, then you get those red fruit characteristics. So there's something called methoxypyrazines, which is a phenolic compound in grapes, which can make the grapes taste green. So if you've ever had a Cabernet that was picked too early, underripe, the wines come out with asparagus taste or green leaf, bay leaf, green olive, bell pepper. Now, a little bit of that flavor helps. It helps with the herbal qualities, and it can help maybe make the wine fresh tasting. But typically, you want your red wines to have fruity characteristics. You don't want them to taste green. You want them to taste fruity. So,
and that's why you never pair wines with asparagus or artichoke or green bell peppers. So it brings out the bad qualities in the wine. So if you ever see a pairing with those three things, be aware.
Yeah, so it's a benzene ring. It's organic chemistry. There's methoxypyrazines, which you typically don't want in Cabernet, which it's typically found in Cabernet, Merlot, Cab Franc. The Bordeaux is where it's typically seen. You want monoterpenes, that's what makes it fruity and floral. In rosés, monoterpenes is what gives you like lemon, orange, lavender, those flavors. And in red wines, that's where you get red cherry and blackberry, blueberry. So you're shooting for monoterpenes, but this develops in the berry. So it develops as the grapes are getting riper and riper. They lose their methoxypyrazines, and monoterpenes now become more expressed. So you want to impress your friends. You're tasting Cabernet. You say, this wine has a lot of methoxypyrazines, or this wine has a lot of fruitiness to it. It must have a lot of monoterpenes. Again, you could look under a microscope and analyze wine to that degree of detail, and you could find these natural occurring organic compounds in the wine. So again, Cabernet though, I mean, a good cab will have a bit of greenness to it. You know, it's, again, when I make wine, I want it to be complex. I don't want it to be one note and miss other notes. It can have a little bit of green flavor, but also I want it to have.
And you like the green. You like the green flavor. Like it. One of the things about your palate is maybe you can taste what it's going to be. Do you think that's why you like it so much? Is you actually kind of can taste the young qualities of it? Yeah,
no, I think the green flavor adds a freshness to it. Like vegetables are fresh and crisp and vibrant, and it has that fresh taste. Whether when the grapes are raisiny ripe, then you get more plum and raisin overripe grape flavor. So it's nice to have a balance of the two. But typically, like all Cabernet will have some element of green taste, methoxypyrazines, and then maybe the predominant taste is more monoterpenes, which will be the fruity flavors. Now in winemaking, you can deter the methoxypyrazines by adding more oak that can mask it, so you can never get rid of it. You can never if the grapes are underripe, you can't make them ripe. Once the grapes are picked, there you go. You're making wine with those grapes. You can't make them more ripe later on. But you can mask the flavors by oak barrels is a great way to do it. And then just over time, so Faith just mentioned if the wine is young, over time with oxidation, it binds with the methoxypyrazines and will eliminate a portion of them. So that green flavor does go away slightly over time.
So you're saying that all the organic chemistry that we were forced to learn pays off? Exactly. That's what you're talking about, organic chemistry.
I liked organic chemistry. I didn't like regular chemistry as much. Once I did organic chemistry, like it made sense. Like, wow, this is really interesting. Very interesting. So later on, or we're almost to the point where we're gonna taste cab. We can talk about how it comes through on the palate. But before we taste wine, we just got one more section here. Mailbag, where if you've left a comment, leave a comment, ask a question. I'm willing to answer any vineyard wine event, anything happening at Sculpterra. Please ask us a question. So we've got a couple questions here. Faith can pull those up and okay. More questions about.
See what we got.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So our first question. I'm interested in barrels. What is your general philosophy on new versus neutral oak? This is actually a very good question because working in the tasting room, we get this question a lot. What is neutral is a very deceptive word. So explain to us in the audience what neutral versus new oak means.
Yeah, a neutral oak barrel is a used oak barrel after a certain amount of time. So once a barrel is 3 times used, you've used up all the toast. So it's not going to give you the effect of oak anymore. You can still age the wine in that barrel. It's still a good place for the wine to age as it will oxidize, but it's not going to come out oaky tasting. So any barrel that's been used more than 3 times, we consider it neutral. Now, I'm a firm believer that all red wines should have some percentage of new oak to them, because new oak is such a benefit. It gives you not only are you going to taste smokiness and chocolate and barbecue and those flavors, but it helps the astringency, the mouthfeel, the texture of the wine is supported by new oak. So if I had my way with everything, I would do everything, all the red wines at least, with at least a 3% new oak. So for instance, if we're bottling 10 barrels of Cab, I would want 3 of those barrels to be new. And then of those 3 new, it's also fun to do 1 French, 1 American, 1 Hungarian. That way it's your spice rack, the French, American, Hungarian barrel. They all have a different flavor profile. Not that one's better than the other, but the 3 of them working together is great. There are certain wines like Petit Syrah. We tried Petit Syrah earlier on this podcast, and I love doing all new oak if we have it. Maybe, at least 80% of the barrels new. But then a wine like Grenache, which is a a lighter style wine, a lighter bodied wine. I don't want to over oak it. I don't want to throw too much new barrels. So I use more older neutral barrels and maybe just 10% new oak. But pretty much across the board, a third of the barrels are new for all of our wines. The cab we're going to try next is 26% new oak. And the Maquette 2022, I think, was about 25%. So oak is incredible. We're going to do a podcast. I'm going to get a Cooper, a barrel producer here eventually, and we're going to go into how barrels are toasted, how they're seasoned, how they source the wood in the forest and chop down the trees and replant the trees. There's a lot of science behind it. I love oak barrels. Very interesting.
So if we age as humans, we're allowed to say we're neutral, not old.
Yeah, why not?
All right, got it.
Getting older.
I like it. Next question. What is terroir? This is a fancy term for the land, correct? Terra, gone with the wind, terroir?
Terroir, yeah. The easiest way to think about it is it's the influence of soil, light, sun, the climate on one vineyard. So this was started in France because in France, there's vineyards that are divided up by family, even divided up by each row. So one row will be controlled by the uncle, and the other row is controlled by the cousin. Everything is, they have so much history in these vineyards, and the wines are different from each vineyard to the next, or each block to the next. And it's because of terroir, because each vineyard gets a different amount of rainfall, gets a different sunlight throughout the day, different soils. It's trained and grown differently. So the terroir is, a fancy way of saying the impact of the climate, of the land, of the soil. Like our terroir is different than our next door neighbor's terroir. Is it similar? It's more of a difference between like Paso and Napa have a greater difference, but there is a difference, and it's what makes wine a complex product, because wine takes on where it's grown and the climate around it.
Right.
And
usually at the tasting room, people say a big question I get is, what makes the wine? Is it the winemaker? Is it, who? And I usually say, because I'm partial, that it's usually the winemaker because you're my brother, but you always say that it's the terroir and it's the climate. So it's the land, and if we got rain that year, how much rain. But I don't know. I don't know if you're just being humble or if you really think that that's true. Do you think it's more the winemaker or more the terroir and the climate? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think it's more the land, because I've experienced. I've made wines from other vineyards, and it's just night and day. That's
okay. I can see
the grapes have a different flavor profile, and again, making wine every year from the same vineyards, you start to learn what each block tastes like and what flavors are derived.
I think he's being a little humble to the audience. I think it is the winemaker. I think it's 50-50, but what do I know?
Well, let's taste some wines. I want to try a few. We've got. Again, these are 2 of the 3 wines in the Collectors Club shipment. We're going to try this new release, 2023 Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, so this is the wine I paired with the barbecue flavors of the blog, and this is what Ryan, our caterer, is going to do with the barbecue as well. So you were saying that this cab is actually a little lighter than your cabs that you've done in the past, which I think is good, because barbecue, if anyone's ever made barbecue sauce, it's usually, ketchup, molasses, brown sugar. I mean, these are sweet things. If you've got a heavy wine to compete with a very sweet molassesy thing, it can kind of fight back a little bit. This is where the principle of like and like. So I think if you have a lighter red wine to go with something that's a little bit more on the sweet side, it kind of brings out the best in both worlds, the wine and the sweetness. So, and of course, with red meat, red wine goes well. But I think a lighter Cabernet is better with barbecue, depending on what type of barbecue. Not a heavy vinegar-based barbecue, but more of a sweeter ketchup base. Ketchup gets a bad rap, but people use it a lot more than people think.
I love ketchup.
Oh, okay.
I use a lot of ketchup. Ketchup and ranch. Okay, 2023 Cab. This is our biggest bottling of Cabernet we've ever done. It was 1,500 cases. So this wine's going to last us a long time.
Yeah, what year is this again? I'm sorry.
2023.
23. It's got a great color. It's very light in the color. It almost looks like a Pinot or a Grenache in the color. It's very nice. I think it's nice because I think cabs, we get so bogged down and heavy with Paso cabs sometimes, and it can just be heavy, heavy, heavy. This is very nice and light. I think this is, and would you say it's lighter because of the climate that year?
Yeah, 2023 is when we had a lot of rain. We had the record-breaking 28 inches of rain, and the grapes took a long time to get ripe. We had a big crop. This is a blend of the Autopista, the Hilltop block, and a blend of the Old Well Cabernet. We had 2 truckloads of each. What's also nice is this had 18 new oak barrels. It had 9 American and 9 Hungarian, and it's the Trust Cabernet Collection Barrel, which is a wine barrel designed for Cabernet, for long aged Cabernet, that it enhances the tannins, especially.
This is very dry. I mean, what is the dry? How do you get the dry flavor that goes well with the barbecue? I mean, the dry with the sweet it's really, really good. But how do you get that dry? Maybe I'm not even describing it right. You could probably describe it a little bit better. But what's the dry taste?
Yeah, it's dry. It was fermented to complete dryness, meaning all the sugar was consumed during alcoholic fermentation and converted to alcohol. But yeah, it's I think some of it too is the oak. The oak barrels has a astringency to it as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's still young. So this wine's going to be on the tasting room menu all of November. So our folks and customers, my club members, will get to taste this. Currently, we're pouring and selling 2021 cab. Last November, we released 2022 cab. So if you want it, you can actually taste all 3, 2021, 22, and 23, and try them side by side. They're all different, but they're similar but different in their own way. Very nice. 2023 Cabernet coming out in just a couple weeks. All right, let's try the maquette. We got one more.
So this is probably our most popular wine that we get the most requested in the tasting room. We didn't really mention, but I do a lot of the tasting room stuff. Paul does the winemaking, and I manage the tasting room. So this is probably the one that we get the most requested and the most enjoyed. People, and also because it has one of the best statues on it. So it's a beautiful bottle.
Yeah, all of our blends are silk screened, which is a permanent painted label. You can get it wet, put it in the fridge. It stays on. Maquette is a blend of 4 different grapes: Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot 2022. Which this one, I brought a bottle here showing all the awards that it won. So it's a new wine, and it's gotten lots of awards. It got a platinum in the New York International Wine Contest, at the Orange County Wine Contest. It got a gold, and it got a gold at the Central Coast Wine Competition here at the Mid-State Fair. So it's a brand new wine, and it's already scored very highly. And it's a complex blend, So we just tried Cabernet on its own, 100%. Now we're trying Cab with Cab Franc, with Merlot, and Petit Verdot. So
it's going to be a little bit. I think whenever I think about this wine, I think it's softer on the palate than a pure straight Cab. I mean, that you got that Merlot that really mellows it out, and we have the Cab Franc is something that's very different. We have 100% Cab Franc at the winery as well, which is very, very rare. So it's the blends always do very well. People are very interested in, because it's pure winemaking. I mean, blending is where your expertise comes in, right? That's the palate of the winemaker. So
I love to blend. I think you can overdo it. You have something that tastes great, you have something else that tastes great, and you blend them together, and it comes out better. But you've got to be careful, and you've got to know it starts in the vineyard. You've got one vineyard maybe that perhaps has a predominant herbal flavor, and another vineyard that gives you more dark fruit flavor. Blend them together. You can taste both at the same time. This wine has a lot of complexity. Yeah, this wine has a lot of coffee, chocolate.
Delicious. Yeah, this is.
And I think because it's older, it's 2022, so it's had more time to develop and soften and
Right. And you
show
could
itself.
and you could definitely taste that. So, but this is, I mean, there's a reason this is one of our most popular blends. It's very well balanced. If I was, if I was going to say anything, this is balanced.
Yep.
It's got the tart, dry, and a lot of fruit, but it's not cloyingly sweet at all.
And again, these are great to pair with food. We've talked about food today, a lot about it. Come to the tasting room. Again, Faith posts a blog about food and wine pairings at all of our events. We always pair wine and food. I mean, you can't have a great meal without wine and wine without food, right? So come to the tasting room. Again, for you wine club members, if you haven't bought your free ticket, RSVP to the November 8th and 9th open house party, please do that. It's been beautiful weather this last weekend. It was wonderful. There's no rain in the forecast, so it's a great time to come out and taste from at our place. And thank you, Faith. You did fantastic. I really wanted everyone to get to know you and to see how passionate you are about food. You've cooked everything, and you cooked for a lot of people too. I think that's what I'm always amazed with, is that you can cook for so many people.
Yeah, I know you were going to ask me what's the largest number of people that I've cooked for. I thought it was a funny question because that's actually not the hardest. It's how little people. When I have to cook for only my husband, a couple times a week, that's the hardest part. Actually, cooking for hundreds and hundreds of people is very easy, especially when you're Jewish and you're Greek. That comes naturally. So probably the most people I've cooked for is probably like 500 people, but that was easy. I'm telling you, it's the one person that's very hard to cook for. So, but yeah, this has been amazing, and it's really nice that we can do this as a family and to really be involved in multiple aspects of it, to really work together. People say it's very hard to work with your family. I think it's very easy because we really care about each other. So it works out.
We have a great family, we have a great place, and we love what we do. So thank you, everybody. I'll be back next week, keeping it going, bringing you more material. Let's see if I'm wearing if I'm wearing the shirt. We're still in harvest mode, okay? We're still going. So thanks, everybody. I'll be back, and let's get something to eat. Woohoo!